Hi, welcome back to U-Bikes and another edition of Shop Talk, being joined by Neil Rogers. Welcome, Neil.
Thanks. We'd planned on shooting outside and we got hit with the late afternoon Colorado storm, so we're welcome back here at U-Bikes.
We're going to need to not plan on shooting at 6 o'clock outside the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
So you're just back from Belgium, but it sounds like you had a great trip over there, but I want to obviously jump in with the big news today. The Ivan Basso story is certainly, I guess it's hard to say it's surprising, but disappointing is the word that really comes to mind.
Yeah, it's funny. I was over there at the Classics. I was there for the Amstel Gold, Flèche Wallonne, and Liège, and Basso was never scheduled to race Amstel, but we thought we'd see him for Flèche and Liège, and I was wondering if there was going to be any sort of press conference, and there's just no word out of Discovery whatsoever, and then the story unfolded that Basso was not going to race, and then he was leaving the team, and obviously the story of a couple days ago, this sort of half-hearted admission of his that I think a lot of people are having trouble digesting.
Half-hearted is being kind.
Yeah, I think that it seems like the sentiment there is that he admitted up to everything that he knew he was going to have to admit to. When they've got your blood and they're going to be able to do the DNA match, there's no point in trying to deny it.
But you want to protect all of these victories that you had, and you don't want an asterisk next to your name in the record book. It's interesting. What a situation. Do you think that the brass at Discovery Channel, do you think that they really believe that this thing had been put to bed and that they weren't going to hear about Puerto anymore?
That's a good question. Yeah. I think they were hedging their bets. I think it was a calculated risk. Obviously the guy is one of the best racers in the world, and Johan Bernil, there's no race that motivates him like the Tour de France. He wanted to win the Tour, and it's like, okay, he's clear now. It was kind of one of those things where once the Italian Olympic Committee cleared Basso, it was sort of like, who's going to make the first move? Who's going to take it? Who's going to take him? Bernil said, I'll take him. I'll take that chance.
And then, basically rocked the boat at that point, upsetting all the other Pro Tour teams that had abided by the agreement not to sign him. Then, there's sort of that underlying tension. You can feel it at the Tour of California, where, no one's really saying anything publicly, and it's also goes amongst a lot of the bigger teams there. What Stapleton is doing with T-Mobile right now, and the in-house doping program, or anti-doping program that they've been developing. It's sort of like you hear teams saying, yeah, that's a bogus system. What we're doing with blood volume is much more accurate. Everybody's still not on the same page, although it was encouraging to see the ASO, Pat McQuaid, and the Lefebvre from the Riders Union come together. That was the biggest positive step that we've seen. Would you agree?
I would agree, though I did get a bit of a chuckle when I read the story that came out of it, and they were calling it their sacred union.
Right.
That obviously it's in everyone's best interest to clean up the sport, and the sport is kind of in critical condition right now, and it needs to be turned around. I think everybody is able to put their differences aside and recognize that, but I don't know. It seems like more often than not we hear about them talking about, okay, we're going to get together and talk about this, and what did we decide? We decided we're going to get together in 2 weeks and talk about this again. But it's funny. I was talking earlier about how the thing with Discovery deciding to finally be the first one to step up and sign Basso. It's interesting. What sort of gave this a big kickstart was actually the German officials who decided to test the DNA with Ulrich's blood, because the Italian Olympic Commission had essentially said, okay, Basso, we believe until anything more comes out of this, you haven't done anything wrong, we don't have enough evidence. And it was the Germans who said, okay, we're going to do a DNA test, and we're going to, because it's a crime in Germany, the sporting fraud. Right. And as soon as they matched Ulrich, then it was like, okay, everybody said, all right.
Well, and then all of a sudden you're like,
okay, open.
Well, and where are these bags of blood? Who ultimately has the right to say that I'm testing it or you're not testing it? Where did the buck stop? And apparently, I got to say, good for the Germans.
Yeah.
That country has a sordid history of its own with what happened in East Germany through the Iron Curtain era of sports. And so for them to head on, be taking on this challenge, like what T-Mobile's doing, although they had obviously the bad news coming that the doctors at the university hospital that they had been using maybe had been involved in the 96 Tour de France, which that was pretty stunning to see that. It's also, we're going back 11 years now. It's an interesting situation.